Good morning, everybody out there in the beautiful world with and without horses. Today, we are going to be streaming into global equine and equestrian coaching and then putting it up on horsepower empowerment through connection, as this is a monumentous event today. We have with us Diane Prewitt from Guiding Reins in Sharon, North Carolina. And Diane was my very first interviewee back on June 23rd of 2020.
January, sorry.
June 23rd of, it's amazing. June 23rd of 2020. It's amazing how quickly it all spins by. And I went back and I was looking at the time. I was like, looked up our old interview and I was just like, wow, how has it been so long when I posted all of that? And the journey that we've both had in the last year and a half is just remarkable. And I can't wait for you to share with the public all the incredible ways that you have been thriving despite everything going on in the world today. So Diane, thank you so much for joining me once more for Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection.
I'm so glad to be here with you, and it's just been, my mind is reeling just thinking of the year and a half it's been since we last talked. So thank you for having me. This is great for me to reflect on what I've been through and what we've been through, you and I together.
You're very welcome. So for people that don't know much about Guiding Reins, Diane is doing amazing work with first responders, with veterans, and just like so much more out there. They've started their every Thursday Reins coffee and
roasted Reins in Landrum. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's super cool. And then in March they have a Heroes 5K coming up, which is, you know, it seems far away, but at the same time, at the rate everything's going, and it's right around the corner. That's so Diane, tell us more about what you're doing.
Okay, well, where to start from when we last spoke? We had
you had like just opened your business with Guiding Reins. Like you're like, hey, we're gonna start this, and then wait, there's a pandemic.
We had just started when you and I spoke, and we started off with 2 participants, 2 veterans, 2 horses, 2 volunteers, myself and an instructor. And, you know, just got it underway, got going. And then literally, I'll never forget, it was 6 weeks to 2 months after we started. I had gotten a grant through the Adaptive Sports Therapy grant through the VA. They called me about 5 o'clock. We just finished session and said, your funds are frozen. No more money, you know, you need to shut it down. So, you know, I thought, oh my goodness, only I would start a nonprofit, and 3 months later we're in a global pandemic. So we did, you know, we felt we needed to do our due diligence and shut it down. And then as we saw that this was not going to be just a, you know, 90-day issue, we just, I mean, and nonprofit, barely any money, 2 pennies to rub together. We were the beneficiary of a charity horse show here in our community. This is a very horse-driven community, very supportive community of nonprofits. And we got us a nice little check for $2,000. And I said, you know what, that's not going to do anybody any good sitting in the bank. Let's start back up. And if we shut it down in 3 months, then we shut it back down. So we reopened. And what was really incredible is the 2 veterans that we had worked with, just their body language of watching them get out of the vehicles. We could tell we were going to have to start all over with our therapy sessions. I actually had one wife of one of them text me about 7:30 that morning saying, I don't know if he's going to get there. He has not left the house since he came home from his last session from Guiding Reins 3 months ago. But we had a veteran on our board that got him on the phone and somehow got him there and just said it was a brother helping a brother. So we started back up and just kept going, and things started morphing and materializing. And then people do remind me, they're like, Diane, you grew even during a pandemic. So fast forward, what, a year and a half later, we have now to date served 59 veterans and 5 family members. So it is growing. We have just opened our 3rd location. And we are negotiating for our 4th location to open in January. I just can't believe it. So been kind of busy, but it's yes. And then we also created what Elysia mentioned, Roasted Reins. Started out once a month, twice a month. It is now every Thursday, which is what we call a coffee and camaraderie, because as we've been working with these veterans, we keep hearing them say that when they get out of the military, they've lost their tribe. They just don't have that family. We have had several participants that said their brothers either were killed in action or committed suicide, and nobody was left. So they just need that time to get together. We created the space for them and then backed out. It's not a sales pitch, about the program. The conversation does eventually kind of circle to where somebody say, hey, tell me about this guiding reins. We have the rack cards, the information off to the side. And it has now become so popular. Sometimes 3 guys show up and sometimes 12 men and women show up. It's just a weekly thing that the community, this is such a great community. Again, there's a store that's a couple of doors down from where we have it, that she brings breakfast once a month, just, not just muffins, a lovely spread. And she said, it's the least what I can do for what you're doing. So they really, really appreciate that time. And we specifically bow out because I'm not a veteran. I can't identify with what it was like about jumping out of planes and, working in Afghanistan. We just kind of give them their space to be together. And that's been tremendous. And we have gotten a lot of participants out of that program.
Yeah. No, it's really beautiful that you're supplying that for the community and that people are coming together.
Yes, yes.
And open up.
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, when you and I talked and met, I had the first interview. I had all of these speaking engagements and events that we were going to attend and really push and promote it. And I mean, it all shut down. Everything was canceled. So the one thing that forced me is that you got to learn how to reinvent yourself. I did. I even went to places like, okay, well, surely they're going to let me in and let me talk to somebody and give them some rack cards. No, doors were locked. I'm peeping in windows. I'm surprised I didn't get arrested. So I stepped back and just decided, how can I get this word out? Yes, the world shut down, but it didn't totally, disconnect.
Yeah.
So, again, leaning towards, the military, VFWs and VA centers and veteran events, all boom, cut off. So what I did is I shifted myself more towards mental health, knowing that these facilities were still up and running. You might not be able to walk in, but just decided to reach out to things like, any doctor or psychologist group that would listen to me, addiction centers, family support centers, and the majority of them would take my call or listen, and then I would mail. It was like going back to old school, snail mailing rack cards.
Yeah.
And, you think we are now, just these past couple of weeks, have gotten 4 new participants. And the first question is, how'd you hear about Guiding Reins? And it worked. They said, oh, your rack card was in the lobby of, North Grove Hospital, and we were walking out and grabbed it, saw the horse. So that's the biggest takeaway is, you don't need 1,000 yeses, just a few. And so I approached it in that way of like, not total rejection, but like, I'm going to get in front of somebody somewhere. And that really worked. Just shifting. You have to constantly reinvent yourself, I think, to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something I've been experiencing. I feel like every 2 months, it's like, what kind of coach am I? Because I feel like it's so much like it boils back down. It's like, oh, like a relationship coach, a connection coach, an empowerment coach, because they all of this, the root of it is so similar, right? And it's just like, which thing is somebody trying to do? Because I feel like in order to be empowered, you have to have a better relationship with yourself. In order to be empowered, you have to be connected in order, like to yourself and to your voice and other people. And you transform yourself out of a space that you were into the space that you want to be, right? So there's like all these different elements that are always connecting. But how is it that you walk forward and talk to people and navigate a new way of marketing authentically, like coming from this heart-centered space of integrity? You're just like, yes, I'm doing this, but how do I articulate this in this new way to meet these people, right? It's just a really fascinating journey. And as we all also evolve, right?
Right. And as I look back, everything has changed. From our curriculum, I can't tell you the amount of hours that the program committee sat down and wrote down this curriculum down to the minute of it. Okay, it takes 15 minutes to groom the horse, and then we'll go into the lunging exercise, and we grabbed somebody that had no horse experience, and timed it out. And it's not that that work was in vain. We needed that to get started. I mean, show me somebody that designs a car or house, the first time and say, great, make it. But it has, when you look back on not so much, yes, we've grown, but how you've changed. And I think you can only come about that change by being in it and being in the ups and downs and the sleepless nights and the tears, which I was told I would have, and I did, and I still do. So the thing that I take away from it too, in this personally, is that you have to normalize that you're never going to be the same, but that's not a bad thing.
Right. Absolutely. That because we should evolve. We experience different things in life, and just having grace with yourself and forgiveness for what you didn't know, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And then for me, it was for me, not only for myself, but my instructors, my program is normalize that you're not going to be the same. And we actually use this in some of our discussions with the veterans, is that we treat it like steeping tea, the steeping tea analogy. The tea is steeped. You can't change the tea, but what else can you do to it? You can add honey, you can add sugar, you could add cream. You could make more space by putting it in a bigger cup to secure it, to hold it, so that when you're jostling around trying to figure out, you don't burn those that are trying to help you.
I've never actually heard this analogy
before.
Really? No, I've never heard it before. The only analogy with hot tea is that it's like you never know how strong a woman is until you put her in hot water.
There you go. And now they know how to maneuver it, right? So you put it in a bigger cup, and then you put it in a bigger cup so you don't hurt or harm those that are around you that are helping you, but then you hold it, you stabilize it. And we've used that in a lot of our sessions with our veterans too, is to, again, you hate to say embracing change, but normalizing that you're never going to be the same, but that's really okay. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and the other main thing I think take away that we have really learned, and it's just been so interesting, is especially with veterans, they just want you to listen. And so really coaching our team to learn how to embrace silence and be comfortable with it. A lot of people aren't. It's hard. I mean, I'm chatty, Kathy. It's hard. It's because you cannot identify and you cannot say, yeah, I know what you mean or how you feel. No, you don't, unless you can tell me you've been right there with them. So we've really, as I was reflecting about our call today, again, how everybody has changed and morphed, is learning how to hold space. We call it holding space. You're just there to hold space. You're there to hold my horse while I take my coat off, or, just be there and just listen. They really just want somebody to listen. And again, something that you can take away for yourself too.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate you bringing forth that point. And also for our horses that we engage with.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And holding space for them to process when we make an ask. And because sometimes the way we engage with our horses, we're not as clear with our communication as we would like to be, because the messiness of our own lives. And even if we show up as best we can, well-intended, we're not necessarily always clear. So like making an ask and then give the horse the opportunity to process and figure out what it is that you're asking them, and holding that space before you're like, whoa, 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 whoa,
right.
Or like trot, right? Instead of just asking something or saying something one time and then breathing and settling in your own self, and either bringing your energy down if you want your horse to calm down, or making your energy a little bit bigger, and just holding space for that. Because so often I think in life, people don't necessarily have the security within themselves and the patience and the self-worth. They're like, oh, I have to remind them, I have to reinforce, I have to tell them, and make it a really big deal, instead of just being calm within oneself and clear in our direction and have faith in the person or the animal that's in front of us.
It is amazing how it's a nervousness, how uncomfortable the majority of the human race is with silence. So we've done a lot of practicing and a lot of, again, we would also tell our veterans is to silence and quiet your mind before you work with your horse, because make it an inviting place. And if you're lucky, they'll invite you into theirs.
Yeah.
That they're not, I saw a great analogy of a horse and a person, mindful, and the person had all this gobbledygook and school, car, grocery, work, and the mindful over the horse was a clear path, you know, with the sunshine ahead of you. And you thought, oh no, and there's a lot of truth to that. A little illustration that I saw somewhere. I need to try to find it and make a copy of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great way to remind yourself that just the difference in definition and how we walk through life.
And going back to the breathing, we do breathing. We incorporated that. Again, that was not in our curriculum in the beginning, and realized how important that was to self-regulate for the participants and the horses. And I just had somebody tell me last week, because what we'll ask the participants, and it's just something that I just decided to do, is to make sure there was some kind of connection with the horse, whether you hug the horse, put your hand on the horse, put your heads together. Just, I wanted some physical connection. And I think somebody was observing and said, I really think the horses benefit from that breathing. And we have done it too in the saddle. When they're mounted, all of a sudden we'll say, kick your feet out of your stirrups. Let's take a moment. Your volunteer is going to hold your horse and let's just breathe. And it was really interesting, you know, because we get so wrapped up into the details. I never really paid attention, but I am this week where she said, those horses really just took on a whole different demeanor when we did our regulating and our breathing. So very important.
Absolutely. It makes complete sense to me since we co-regulate with the horses.
It does. It does. So, yeah, a lot of good, exciting stuff going on. And we're constantly moving and changing and learning. And that's what I like about it. I like I just like that we're so different than we were when you and I first talked.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so much stuff. I think too, like we talk a lot in our industry about the co-regulation with the horses, but also reminding the people out there that we co-regulate with one another.
That's true. Yes. Yes. And I think what we try to embrace, like in our sessions with the participants, as we teach them that with the horses, we do try to ask them to hold on to that and take that with them then when they leave and apply it into their everyday life. And I think they do. That's something that we're trying to create now too, is the whole in this industry is the data, the scientific data. People will say to me, okay, why horses, and B, how do you know it works? And so we have been collecting information on our own with a questionnaire that they fill out when they first arrive and then when they leave. And of course, I've put it in front of a lot of people, and some, you know, they say you're not a controlled study group, but it is something to try and pinpoint, because some people just want to see the hard data. If I could get everybody just to come out and observe, that's all you need. But you can't, you know, have a board on a committee from a grant in Pennsylvania when we're down here in South Carolina, North Carolina, come take a field trip, because the people that do come, they are like, oop, say no more, we got it.
Yeah.
But that's one thing we are in the process of is our program is 16 weeks. You know, we see them once a week for a 90-minute session, and we're trying to figure out how do we circle back, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months from now, to check back in. We have a doctor that we're working with. He wants to possibly create some type of app that we can see, are they holding on to those things that you and I just mentioned about self-regulating and applying it 3 months after they've left the program.
Yeah, that would be really great to see.
Yes. It's because I feel this is now still very, very new, but people are pausing and taking notice.
Yeah, definitely. Are you using HeartMath at all?
No, but I've looked into it. We had somebody come and do a demo. Have you experienced it?
I have. I've experienced it at a few different facilities. I know that they use it at Horse Sense of the Carolinas with Shannon.
That's right. That was the first place I saw it.
Yeah, I was over at her place doing a little bit of volunteer work back when I was getting my postgrad in equine assisted learning. And I've seen it in a couple other places. So that's been a really cool thing. I'm a big fan of HeartMath.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Yes, we had somebody come down from Asheville and spent the day with us and did a demo. And do they put one on the horses, or is it just the humans?
You can put one on the horses.
Okay. Okay.
As far as I know, like you never, I haven't looked at it recently, but last I heard, you can put it on the horses as well as the humans.
Well, we're very thrilled about the Man o' War project. That study that has come out that finally got published again was
Man o' War.
postponed because of COVID. That really has helped. And that'll be a huge asset. But again, how wonderful that they had the funding to do, I think, MRIs before their sessions and after. You know, maybe someday, one day we can do that. But that's been a huge help to list that as a footnote on our application. So like I said, I think it's really, people are starting to really take notice and see this is an alternative approach to wellness. I mean, we had 2 new participants last week that just said, I'm so thrilled to be here because they were tired of taking all the pills. So
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense to me.
yeah, yep, yeah.
What else have you been doing with the horses with any sort of like cross training? Are you doing primarily like groundwork? Are you doing things under saddle? What are you doing to help keep them in a good place without being burned out?
Yeah, that's another interesting place that we're taking it as far as we're revamping. We're going to, because we do run into not having enough horses to carry, you know, larger adults. These are 6'4" guys, and you're at a barn when normally it's little, you know, 90-pound kids, lesson programs, because they do get burned out. We do not allow a horse to do more than 2 sessions a day, and you can see it. So, and of course, as we all know, we love to ride, but there's so much more of a connection on the ground. So we actually have a trainer coming in, Betsy Call from Texas in January, where we're going to do the classical. It was the same thing. Again, serendipity. I open up a magazine, same article, working with veterans, but running into the issue of having big enough horses. She does classical dressage training on the ground with the line drive, the sur single, and they work as teams. So again, the group, that's another thing we've noticed. While the individual sessions are good, and sometimes we have to start out that way, you get so much more out of a group session for everybody. It's just fascinating to watch. So this whole driving of 2 participants per horse, she's coming in for 3 days of training, because that is something, is the question that I always ask each farm where we are, is what do we do? What do they do to pay the horses? And I have gotten a couple of people looking and say, what do you mean? You know, how, and so I want to know, like, what is the regimen, the schedule? And another person that I have followed about this is she got hired to a farm to be the farm manager. And the first thing she did is she gave everybody, all the horses had a year off, and she kept her job. So, I said, how did she not get fired? And, but it's one of the happiest places that I've seen where the horses seem happy. And because we are concerned, because these farms where we go into, if they have lesson programs for, you know, the kids to come in after school and take lessons, and then we roll in for a day or 2, and it's a lot. So we do have a very strong, another curriculum that we're kind of writing to monitor and engage. And that's another thing that we changed with our staffing, is now when we have a session, we of course have an instructor, a co-facilitator who takes notes, and an equine manager. And the equine manager's job and position is solely to stay focused on the horses, not watching anybody or anything else, so that they can then give us indication that somebody's looking a little irritated or a little agitated, and it's been 2 sessions and maybe they need a week off. So
yeah, no, that's great.
yeah.
Have the horses been getting any massage?
Not yet, but we have somebody that's going to come do a demo on the Masterson Method. Have you heard of that?
Yep.
And that we want to incorporate doing that possibly once a week for the horses and the participants. So I've read about it. I haven't seen it. We have a demo later this month. I'm very excited.
Super cool. You know, I'm licensed to work on horses.
Right.
As well as people.
I knew people. I didn't know horses.
Yeah, small and large animals.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So you have heard of the Masterson Method, and you
have.
Okay.
Yeah.
They said it's pretty amazing what you can do just with a simple touch.
It's true. The T-touch is also, Tellington touch is a really great modality to get to learn for the horses as well as humans. So.
Okay. Yes, that was one of the things that we're incorporating, not only for the participants when we have a rainy day, because all of our locations where we are, we don't have a covered arena, but we're here in South Carolina, North Carolina, we generally have good weather, a rainy day here or there. that would be something that we throw in the curriculum on a rainy day. But as I started digging into it, I said, I want this to be a solid part of what we do and what we teach. So we are working it in for the January 2022 new session. So very excited.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think it's great when you connect the participants with the horses in that way, because it increases their bodily awareness, I feel like, by default, by paying attention to what's going on with the horse and teaching them how to identify pain and tightness in the horse, and how to teach them how to stretch the horse, how to massage the horse, and see the difference in their gait and their range of motion and their disposition. And be like, you don't even necessarily have to tell them, be like, oh, like follow the bouncing ball sort of situation, right? It just,
Right,
they're just like, oh, I see the difference. Well, what if about my body?
right.
How is my disposition going to change? Like, am I going to be calmer? Am I going to be happier when I don't have as much pain or tightness in my body?
Well, we noticed when we would do about 15 minutes of grooming before each session, and we had several participants that's all they wanted to do. And some of them, that's all that we got out of them, and that's okay. But then again, as we really just stood back and watched and observed, that you don't have to, like, the goal is to get on and ride and do the 2-hour trail ride and like, okay, we're done. It's just, we're realizing it's so much more meaningful, quiet, slow, thoughtful, processes that we do, versus what we've seen is when they get in the saddle, the disconnect is there on working on their mental health at no fault of anybody's. You are, when you're in the saddle, focusing on your seat, your hands, your feet, where, what's the task at hand, what's the goal. So that's where we started seeing a little bit of a disconnect. That have we become now not an equine assisted wellness program, but therapeutic riding, which I think is wonderful. But right now we have all able-bodied participants except for one. It is all mental health, where I kind of thought it was going to be more half and half, some physical disabilities and mental health. It's all mental health with the exception of one participant. So that's again another thing where we've seen a shift, is so that we give them the tools and the knowledge that if they do want to ride when they go through the program, then they can go to the the farm or the stable down the street from their house and sign up for some lessons. So because we were spending so much time and burning up on the sessions we did a whole session on tack, just teaching them about saddles and bridles and how to tack a horse. That would take at least one, sometimes 2 sessions. So again, just seeing a little bit of a disconnect, not that it was bad, we got great reviews, they loved it, but just wanted you to, again, reinvent, stay deep, and what's the true purpose and meaning of why we're here and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting overlay and intentionality, like what we're working on and the threshold of the people that we're working with, like honoring what that person needs and what that horse needs in that moment to work in
Right.
healthy partnership. Because there's the equine welfare piece, right?
Right.
And it's difficult sometimes to really dig really deep to honor them. So for instance, working with people and the horses and understanding the tightness in their body and how that tightness affects the horse's body, and
Right.
how they're compensating with balance. And as people bond with their horses, it does become kind of that mental health aspect when you want to take more personal accountability. You're like, how much awareness do I need to have with how I'm carrying my body and how that's affecting the horse? Just like when we're in our day-to-day lives, how is what I'm feeling in my body, in my mind, affecting the people around me? And what do I need to do for personal accountability and balance so that the rest of the people around me can stay in a greater equilibrium?
The other thing too is it takes away again that, we have a little donkey. He's 400 pounds that nobody can ride, and a lot of people flock can identify to him. So then we don't have to be like, okay, well, now what do we do when we're done with the ground? Who are we going to partner? We had a 6'4", 240-pound guy that loved this, 12 hand little pony. They were so cute together. So again, that just removes that whole other equation that you got to go, now what do we do? And that's what we were running into. We had one session with all our large adults, and we only had 2 horses that could carry, so then practicing what you're saying is, and we can only use them twice and then they're done for the day. So, again, you got to go through it and work through all these kinks. And as my dear friend always said, nothing worth having is easy. And boy, this is.
Well, I love how you're diversifying. It sounds like you're really committed to having a great experience for the horses, a great experience for your participants, that you're honoring the space for your staff to be able to come in and recognize that it's not about being perfect, and that we all just do the best that we can.
I feel like we are really creating something unique and different. There's, like a wonderful therapeutic writing program right here where I volunteered for 13 years, but that's what got the bug in my head going. It's a fabulous program. But again, it's just something that I saw that was missing. And I knew it was there, but boy, I didn't know it was this deep, and this wide, and it's just so much to learn. And so, as you discover one thing and you discover an additional thing of that, like you said, the care for the horses. I love asking these farms, how do you pay the horses? And you have to, you get, some people know right away, and then I get the deer in the headlights, like, and they, wait, what? I said, how do you pay your horses? And they were like, feed, hay. I'm like, no, how do you pay your horses for the job that they do for you? They earn them income. And the majority of them don't have an answer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I would wonder how many of the veterans that you see are good at advocating for themselves in general.
Not a lot. We actually just scratched on the surface last week. We get this a lot, and I actually included it in my opening remarks for a new group last week, is the majority of them don't like civilians. And I want them to know we understand, we get it a lot, and we don't take it personally. And as you work with them, you understand why. So not only being the self-advocate for themselves, what came up last week is they do not like to ask for help, period, let alone ask a civilian for help. So when we were doing a group activity, and we finally said, we never told you couldn't work as a group, these 3 veterans all of a sudden came together and got the task done in 1 minute. And that's how the conversation worked into that, is they said, all 3 of them said, these 3 don't know each other. They just said, I'm not comfortable asking for help. And I said, do you see that as a fault? And they said, they feel the only reason they ask for help is because they were amongst other veterans. And they feel that if they asked anybody else, civilian, that they would be told incorrectly or told how to do it wrong. And it's prevalent in that population. And
do you see that more with male veterans versus female veterans? It's just across the board.
there were 2 males and a female. And in their insight forms, they said that session made them realize that they need to be more comfortable with asking for help or assistance. No, it is across the board, even men and women.
That's not at all surprising to me. I was just curious.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find where somebody wrote something down, and it did. It just floored me. Just what they, just asking for help, and then they don't do it enough, and to recognize when to ask for help. So are they maybe I could, you just gave me a thought. Maybe I could circle back into that as being a self-advocate to take care of your health. So to say, hey, I need some help. And we did touch on that we were very proud of them because they've taken the step to seek us out to try to find something different versus taking a pill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really amazing, fun stuff.
It's definitely important to validate people when they're being vulnerable and stepping into a space of discomfort in general, no matter what population they're hailing from.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of people that are out there hurting right now. That just is overwhelming. I'm sure you see it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board. So what's something that you've been doing as a business owner to help cope with the stress and the balance between, like striving to have something functional during difficult times and honoring when you're thriving and being able to take a step back, or maybe not taking a step back? I don't know where you are at with all of the things.
I know. You mean for myself? Well, my Indian name is Princess Hair on Fire. So Diane never stops. No, but I do. I have made myself realize that you can't keep going 90 miles an hour with your hair on fire. So love to do things, you know, that I love to do, like spend time with my horse, take time to read, and not read something about horses therapy. Although I'm a sponge, I can't get enough of it. I love, love, love my Pilates class. So what I do, a little tip, is when you get your calendar, I color code, and I know a lot of people do this, but everything in red is guiding Reins, so red's all over my calendar. But when I do, I make sure I do something for myself, and it's in blue, so that when I look at that week, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, whether it's even a haircut, you know, or just to go sit in a chair, breathe, and let somebody else pamper you for an hour, or a massage, or go see the chiropractor, or so I make sure I have a blue, at least one blue, or lunch with a girlfriend, just to step away, because you eat, sleep, drink, and breathe it, and you have to. You got to step away from it, because then you come back and then it's like a new set of eyes. And I think I said that to my husband not too long ago. I said, how come when you walk away from something and you come back and you see it, it's like a second set of eyes? So call it your second set of eyes therapy. Go get your second set of eyes.
You have to take the time to take a step away so that you can come back.
It's amazing.
Because it's
yeah.
really difficult to see things when they're like right in front of your face.
Well, it's hard to turn it off. And again, the other thing I have to say is just set boundaries. You just have to set boundaries. That I think just about everybody's realized that I really try to disconnect on Sundays. I like with, you know, these things, you know, just don't look at it, don't answer it, because then it starts and one email turns into 10, and then 2 hours later you're sitting at your computer on a Sunday afternoon. So I really kind of like, you know, the old Southern way it used to be, how Sunday was your day of rest and your day with your family. I really try to respect and honor that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, taking time away. And I feel like when we talk about boundaries, oftentimes people think of it like, oh, I have to have boundaries with somebody else, like the world around me. But sometimes you have to have boundaries with yourself.
You really do. And I just started doing that recently. Yeah, that's an important piece of advice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Last night I really wanted pizza.
Right.
And I had to have a boundary with myself, because I had perfectly good food in my refrigerator that I needed to eat. So I had to have a conversation. I'm like, no, Elysia, you're going to drive straight home and eat the food that's in your refrigerator and not get the delicious pizza that you're wanting right now.
And did you drive home?
I did actually drive home. And today I really wanted to get coffee and a cookie. And I was, no, Elysia, you were going to drive home and you were going to eat the food that's in your refrigerator.
You're not going to stop.
You're not going to stop to get things that you don't need and waste the food that's in your refrigerator. It's like a work in progress. Like, we all have our weak points. Mine is like compulsive comfort eating.
And we all have our vices. Show me one person that doesn't. I'd love to meet them, right? I mean, come on. We all have our vices.
It's a funny thing, for sure.
But if you slip, don't beat yourself up either.
Yeah, grace is incredibly important in forgiving oneself. It's not about condoning an action when you forgive yourself for somebody else. It's about forgiving yourself for the action of the other person, so that you can let go of the pressure and the energy that's attached to it and come at it with healthier boundaries if you need to, or disconnect, or altering your path, finding things to help build your habit life. Like, there's all these different things. But if you're so stuck on being angry at yourself or other people, that's time and energy that you're losing that you could be directing towards your goals and actually living a more functional life.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah. Absolutely.
I have to tell myself about it all the time, you know. So
I know. Yeah, you got it rehearsed.
The messiness of being human. I keep telling people, it's like, okay, you know, like, you only really fail when you give up completely, like when you're totally done. It's like, because if you're just like, if you give up in a moment and you're just like, can't do this right now, but then you try it in a couple minutes or a day or a couple weeks, maybe even, like, as long as you get back to it, what your goals are at some point, you haven't actually failed. You've had the opportunity to learn how to not do something.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you're right. I have to remind myself of that.
Yeah.
Good.
It's the gift that we give ourselves. But like, if you don't try, then you stay stuck where you're already unhappy oftentimes.
Right.
And so when you're moving and you're trying different things that may or may not, quote unquote, fail, you're seeing how to get to the other side of something. And then you get to have a greater victory when you do find the correct path, the processes to get to your goal. And then it's this beautiful thing.
It is a huge victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And then if you're willing to not be consumed by shame or guilt, then you can share your story with other people and potentially help them get to their results faster and not feel so alone and be themselves in the process.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And again, that's like we said, what we were saying, stepping away and getting that second set of eyes. You're not quitting. You just got to walk away. Take a breath.
Absolutely. Reassess. Ask your tribe to help you with your blind spots.
Yes, we had that in our session with working with the horses. Be firm, fair, and consistent. Where a veteran said that, and now we say that a lot. And then another one is about getting stuck. Is like just reset. I mean, reset's a great word. Just reset.
Yep.
Yeah.
Start again.
I know. Yeah.
Well, my friend, we're coming close to the end. Is there anything else that you would love to share about what you're doing? Just words of wisdom of things that you have learned over the last year and a half. I'm sure there's lots more.
Again, I think the main thing was like, don't stay stuck and be like, this is my box and I'm going to just service veterans and go to VFWs, and it's shut down. Just reinvent yourself. Think of other ways that you can get the word out and get your, it was harder. I will have to tell you, it was harder. It was a lot more work than getting in your car and getting in front of 50 people and talking about your program. To just only then talk to one or two, or sitting on a Zoom call with the Army National Guard. That was a tough crowd, just silent, not one peep, maybe a couple of questions, but it's coming from a circle where it reached a few people there. So I'll never forget the first class I took on nonprofits. The first thing the instructor said, gosh, this was, I don't know, 6 years ago, 50% of nonprofits fail in the first year. And it just caused me to gasp. And it was interesting. There were 18 people in the class, and the next week when we came back, there were 12. But to me, that motivates me. Some people, it just drives me even more to where I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm not going to be in that percentage. I'm not. Yeah. It's just motivation. The second thing is, like I said, you're going to get a lot of no's, but you don't need 1,000 yeses. You only need a few. Yeah. And just be resilient. And if you're passionate about it and you believe in it, nobody can stop you. Yeah. Yes. And the best advice that I was given that I had reflected on is, I've mentioned two of them already, is another mentor that when I started this, she said, you're going to have a lot of sleepless nights. I said, check. You're going to cry a lot. Check. Both happy and sad tears. I mean, just the tears, we'd see some breakthroughs with our participants or something really beautiful that gives you goosebumps. And then she said, somebody will try to take advantage of your program. And I said, what? A nonprofit? She said, oh, yeah. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. She said, nope. And she was correct. It happened last month. And that kind of sucks the winds out of your sails a little bit. And it's hard, but you just have to tell yourself you can't be everything to everybody. And generally, if you dig in, people are the way they are, say the things they are, not just because of you and your program, but of everything else in the world and life. So, but that was a gut punch. Even though, because I didn't think it could happen, but it did. But you know what? We learned a couple of things from it and moved on. So, like I said, it's not for the weary.
There's a lot, and it sounds like you have your team though that helps you a ton.
I have the most amazing board and committee members, and that's just another thing I would say is surround yourself with people that they literally roll up their sleeves like it's their own, and just set aside egos and set aside, how horse people can be very opinionated.
What? No.
Sure.
That never happens. So weird.
What are you talking about? Yeah. But I'm in awe because I've had some instructors that I thought they could literally have said, look, it's my way or the highway. Nope, they're just, like, let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to do this. And that's just been so, I've been so fortunate and just so grateful to all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Well, my friend, in closing, as always, our closing question is, who inspires you in the world today?
Right now, I would have to say, segue to what I was just talking about, is a volunteer that works with us that I haven't even calculated the hours that she has given of her time and her education and her knowledge. Again, a person that probably could have said, this was real interesting, a real interesting story. She read about guiding reins in 2019, reached out to me, and we met for lunch, kind of talked, and we still had not had our opening yet. We did a soft opening and we started in January 2020. I invited her out in February of 2020 to observe our sessions. She is a psychotherapist. She said, this is so interesting because she has since told me that when she came to observe our session, and she was graciously coming to observe, to then tell me afterwards that she could not work with us. But she said there was something about what we were doing and the people there that she thought, oh, I'm gonna dig in and try this. And she has been with us and has been an advisor, a mentor. She has made me work really, really hard, even to where some of the board members have said, she's really hard on you. That's not fair. And I said, you know what? She's making me do the setups right now. And she made me read her thesis. She gives me, I've got a pile of books from her to read. But she said to me, Diane, I can teach you. She's got her PhD and another 14 other acronyms behind her name. But I am in awe over the time and talent that she's given me, and said, I can teach you how to do this where you don't have to go to school for 10 years and be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And she inspires me to think that she did all the time, but she's been willing to share it with us. And it has morphed into just, again, coming full circle of her knowledge of what she has shared and taught me and our instructors is very inspiring to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I loved it. I told her, I said, so that'll be my speech one day. How she did. She said, I was coming to tell you I'm not going to work with you. You can't do it. It's, again, looking at our curriculum, and she just thought equine assisted activities versus equine assisted therapy. And she just felt they were in two opposite ends of the spectrum. But she has stuck it out with us, and that inspires me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I really appreciate that. It's always nice to hear those kinds of stories and people being generous with their knowledge and their time.
And their time. She will not even accept a gift card from us for gas to come to session. She just won't do it. I think she let me buy her coffee one time. So we have since gotten her a very, very beautiful guiding reins plaque that she has in her office. I'm very, very grateful and forever indebted to her.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Well, my friend, where can people find you if they want to learn more information about you and Guiding Reins? Yes,
website. It's guidingreins.org, and we're growing and the locations are booming. So best thing to do is go to the website, and it's such an easy process too. We have a tab called the process where they can just scroll down, and it's just a one-page participant form or a volunteer form, and they fill it out. It comes right to us, and that gets the ball started.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here on the show today. I really appreciate your time and everything that you're doing for your community. It's such a gift, and for getting to come back and be interviewed by me a year and a half later and get to hear about all the wonderful things you're doing.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me, and let's do this every year and a half.
See
how many
oh my gosh, where will we be in a year and a half? It's crazy to even think. Well,
how many locations we'll have done?
For anybody out there that's watching, if you'd like to be on the show later, at some point you have an inspirational story to share of your own and wisdom to share, we'd love to get to have the opportunity to talk to you. You can find me at www.globalequineaffiliates.com. You can also find more interviews on the YouTube channel, Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection. The other channel is Global Resources for Men, and then on Instagram at Elysia Buss. So if you'd like to hire me for empowerment coaching with or without horses, or with inspirational speaking, or for me to come do a clinic at your barn and help your people, I'd love to get to connect with you. So again, it's Elysia Buss and Diane Prewitt signing off. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.